Now let's just talk about Purdy directly. I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row, and he looked really good, man. Like he up until those final two drives, he actually looked good. He was
Really
making
good.
some good throws, taking some shots, great ball placement. Like it looked good, and then it didn't. Last two drives, I mean, those were about as Jimmy-esque as they could have been. Both those, identical. I mean, those were Jimmy picks.
And I
And to do
think,
it with the game on the line and having two chances at it, I mean that's concerning, man. It really is. And he didn't almost throw a pick. He almost threw a pick last week in the game winning drive situation, but this week, the first throw, I mean, it wasn't almost a pick, but that was a horrible decision throwing it over the middle to Kittle. Like he's telegraphing his throws. Teams are starting to figure it out. Like his arm is such where he has to throw with such anticipation, that anticipation. And it's funny because I was talking to coach about this a couple weeks ago. I said his greatest strength can become his greatest weakness if teams start to figure it out, because he throws with such anticipation. If a receiver falls down in a route, if a receiver can't get there, if there's any hitch or anything, you're starting to see where it can become an issue. And by all means, it was an issue in those final two drives.
sure. And I was just going to say, I mean, you said it, you hit the nail on the head. I think Troy Aikman did a great job about talking about it on the telecast, where he said, look, Brock Purdy's strength, just like you said, is also can be a weakness because it's all about timing. And anytime that timing is off, it looks bad. And Brock Purdy is anticipating throws without necessarily reading the play, if that makes any type of sense. And he threw two balls up that possibly he thought the route was supposed to go there. I don't know if he's missing the throw, quote unquote. He's throwing to where he thinks that play is going to turn out, but obviously there was a miscalculation, whether it's the receiver didn't run the right route or the timing was off, like you mentioned. But they look really bad because it ends up being thrown right to a defender with no receiver around them. And look, once again, man, Brock Purdy is still a young quarterback. It's only his 12th start in the regular season. So I think if we put it in that perspective, Jesse, these mistakes are still not necessarily warranted, but expected. You know, if this is still, if you consider it like his first full year of playing with 12 games. So the main thing is he looked very, very good. Like Nick Wright from FS1 was tweeting throughout the game, and he has this thing where it's like he's like, with Brock Purdy, the plays that you go wow and the plays that you go yikes. And in the first half, he had two wow plays and one yikes throw, right? The one yikes throw was the one to George Kittle, obviously, that was the hospital ball. And then he made a nice throw and then that running play. So I think for everybody that's like, Brock Purdy's trash, we need to throw him. Look, he's not perfect. I don't think he's necessarily this force multiplier. So when it comes time to extend him or give him a contract, that's when we discuss that. But right now, with the team that's around him, he is good enough for this team to beat any team. However, it's not like this huge error. Like there's not a lot of room for error. If he's throwing two interceptions, this team isn't going to win. So he just needs to get better, and he needs to see this. And I just think that for everything that I'm seeing and for how bad we feel right now on a 2-game losing streak, Jesse, this team still is showing flashes of how great they could be even in these losses, is what I'm trying to say. So we just need a couple plays here and there to go bounce our way. And that's just kind of what the game has been.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that Purdy, with all these weapons around him, if healthy, but that's a big if. Like you can't guarantee health, and if everybody's healthy, I think he can make this offense tick.
Can
Because
I tell you where I'm really worried?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I've taken a lot of L's this season. I took an L on Moody, right? And I'm gonna take an L on this because Colton McKivitz is a problem. And I've been a guy who's like, he could be all right, but he can't. And he's going to give up a sack. He's going to give up some pressure that the right side is an issue. He can't stop there. He can't go clean sheet against these elite pass rushers. And I don't know how you fix that because there's nobody coming that's going to be better, right? You can't like trade for a really good right tackle. Maybe who's the guy that's injured? Is it Leo Collins? Lyle Collins. I mean, maybe you bring him in just to see, some kind of depth, at least have another option. But McKivitz is an issue. And, Jalen Moore actually played well. You didn't hear his name at all. And so, with Trent Williams gone, I don't know can Jalen Moore play right tackle? I don't know. But Cole McKivitz is an issue, man. And that could be a problem moving forward.
Yeah, it most certainly can. Bringing it back to Purdy, I do think if everything is right, but then this is the other thing. This team has to play from ahead. They have to, like, this is not a team that can play from behind and go down and win games, needing touchdown drives with no timeouts and under a minute. Like, that's not what this team is predicated to do. So they're going to have to play from ahead, and doing that all the way through the playoffs is not an easy task. So a lot of things are going to have to go right in order for this team to eventually win a Super Bowl this year. If they're going to get back on the right track, I think really what it comes down to is we're starting to see things that a lot of people didn't believe were there until their eyes were telling it to them. And these were the things that I was always concerned about. And I got railroaded every time he played well. You don't know what you're talking about. You're an idiot and all these other things. But this is exactly what I was worried about. This is why I said I'm not ready to say he's a franchise quarterback, because this is kind of what I always thought was possible when the weapons weren't there. So we're just starting to see it a little bit. Again, it doesn't mean that this is who he is consistently. I'm not saying he's as bad as those final two drives or as bad as he was last week against Cleveland. Like, I think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but he's just not. To me, I just don't see franchise quarterback. And a lot's going to have to change in order because the thing is I didn't see franchise quarterback when it was going well. So I definitely don't see it when it's not going well. And so, yeah, let's hope they can win a Super Bowl with him on the inexpensive contract. But a lot's going to have to change in order for me to really, especially now, change my mind on him being that franchise caliber quarterback.
Yeah, and the thing about it, we keep talking about franchise quarterback. We don't have to make that decision for another 2 years, right? That only hurts us. That only hurts us if we do what New York did with Daniel Jones and give him franchise quarterback money when he's clearly not a franchise quarterback. And we could discuss that in 2 years. But as for right now, I think the biggest issue is there's so many important positions that we're trusting with really young, inexperienced players. Quarterback with Brock Purdy. Why did we lose the last game? There was a lot of reasons, but ultimately, if you want to just put it on one play, a rookie kicker that can't make a 41-yard kick when the pressure's on. Like, so Brock Purdy, throwing inopportune interceptions at the end of game. Like, these are young players that are making these type of mistakes. On the flip side, you have a Kirk Cousins who, even though he's depleted of talent, he's, the pocket's crumbling all around him. He's making the right throw. He's making the right play. He's making the right decisions and all that kind of stuff. So can this stuff be fixed as the season goes on? The answer is yes, but it also can bite you in the butt because ultimately we don't know what these players are or aren't in kicker like Jake Moody, in a quarterback like Brock Purdy. Like, this is the first time we've seen him have to play from behind in the last 2 games. I think against Cleveland, he did enough to help that team win. Even though he played terrible most of that game, at least in that last drive, he showed, at least he threw the ball to Brandon Ayuk, who ultimately made the play that got them in the right. That's not really Purdy, but he got the ball to the right guy, and Brandon Ayuk did everything else. But that was Jake Moody missing that. Otherwise, we're 6-1. We're 6-0 going into this week, right? And in this game, ultimately, it was a young signal caller that ultimately threw the ball in the wrong place on the last 2 pivotal drives, where if we got into scoring position and kick field goals in those 2 plays, we win by 1, right? So that, I think, is where it's a little bit scary, Jesse, is that important positions are with very inexperienced players.
Bingo. That's exactly all. That's all I was thinking about the whole time you were saying that. It was for a win now team to put the two players that score the most points on a team are as young as they are and essentially rookies. Boy, that sure was ballsy, and it's not paying off for him right now.